Commander Tae-sung gathered his senior officers in the Indomitable's briefing room. The ship was still docked at Coalition Station Zenith, still technically under tribunal oversight, still supposed to have her weapons systems offline. What he was about to propose could end all their careers. Rothix warned me. Tae-sung began without preamble. The Qualaxian military faction is sending their entire hidden fleet to Tagaris sector. Over 200 warships. They're going to destroy the shipyard and everyone who sees it. That includes the Dominion's Pride and her crew of 4,000. Lieutenant Hana's eyes widened. Admiral Vexith's ship. Yes, the same admiral who mocked us, who testified against us, who called our technology primitive garbage. Tae-sung looked at each of his officers in turn. If we leave right now without authorization, we'll be considered fugitives. Ambassador Ji-won made that very clear. Earth's reputation, already fragile, will be destroyed. Our careers will be over. We might face criminal charges. Engineer Dae-hyun leaned back in his chair. But if we don't go, 4,000 people die. Probably more than that, Tactical Officer Sang-woo added. 200 warships appearing in Coalition space. Even if the Dominion's Pride is destroyed quickly, the Qualaxians will have to deal with potential witnesses. Any ship in that sector is at risk. Flight Commander Bora crossed her arms. So the smart political move is to stay here and let them die. The stupid, dangerous move is to take our damaged ship into a fight against 200 warships. She smiled grimly. When do we leave? Tae-sung felt a surge of pride in his crew. I'm not ordering anyone to come. This is volunteer only. If you want to stay here, no one will judge you. But I'm taking the Indomitable back to Tagaris sector. I didn't join the Navy to play politics. I joined to protect people. Hana stood up. I'm in. So am I, Dae-hyun said immediately. My fighter wing goes where I go, Bora stated. Sang-woo nodded. Someone needs to keep you all from flying into asteroids. Within 2 hours, the entire crew had volunteered. All 4,000 of them. Not one person chose to stay behind. When Ambassador Ji-won heard about it, she tried one last time to talk Tae-sung out of it. This is career suicide, she said desperately. Earth Command will disavow you. The Council will condemn you. Everything you've worked for will be gone. Maybe, Tae-sung agreed. But we'll still be able to look at ourselves in the mirror. Ji-won stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I'll delay reporting your departure as long as I can. Give you a head start. It's all I can do. It's enough. Thank you. The Indomitable powered up her engines and disengaged from the station's docking clamps. Coalition control immediately demanded they stand down, but Tae-sung ignored the transmissions. The carrier turned toward the jump point for Tagaris sector and accelerated hard. Engineering, can we push past safe limits? Tae-sung asked. Dae-hyun's voice came back confident. Sir, these reactors were designed to take punishment. I can give you 20% over standard thrust, but the ship's gonna shake. Do it. The journey to Tagaris sector normally took 16 hours. Dae-hyun got them there in 12, pushing the fusion reactors and engines beyond anything the designers intended. The ship rattled and groaned, stress fractures appearing in bulkheads, but she held together. While they traveled, Dr. Yuna worked with Sang-woo on analyzing what they knew about the Qualaxian fleet. 200 warships was an impossible number to fight directly. They needed a strategy that didn't rely on winning a straight battle. The shipyard, Sang-woo said, studying the tactical data, it's not just a construction facility. Rothix's files show it has massive fuel reserves and weapon stockpiles, enough to supply the entire fleet. So it's basically a bomb waiting to go off, Bora realized. Exactly. If we can breach the facility's core, the explosion would be catastrophic. Anything nearby would be destroyed or crippled. How close is nearby? Tae-sung asked. Conservative estimate? 20 kilometers. Anything within that radius is dead. 30 to 50 kilometers, you're looking at severe damage from debris and radiation. Hana studied the math. So we need to get the Qualaxian fleet close to the shipyard, then blow it up. While also getting ourselves and the Dominion's Pride away before the explosion, Dae-hyun added. Simple. It wasn't simple at all. But it was the only plan they had. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Tagaris sector to find chaos. The Dominion's Pride was surrounded by dozens of Qualaxian warships, her shields flickering under sustained fire. The Kvalnar carrier was fighting hard, but she was overwhelmed and losing badly. Beyond the immediate battle, the shipyard facility was partially destroyed. The Qualaxians were systematically demolishing it, erasing evidence with explosive charges and weapons fire. Over 100 more warships circled the facility, some breaking off to reinforce the attack on the Dominion's pride. Tae-sung opened a channel on all frequencies. "This is Commander Tae-sung of the United Earth Navy. We're here to help." Admiral Vexith's face appeared on screen, his expression showing disbelief and something that might have been shame. "Commander, you should not be here. This is not your fight. My pride brought us to this. Let it be my punishment." "Too late, Admiral. We're already here. Now listen carefully because we have one shot at this." Tae-sung explained the plan quickly. Vexith's expression shifted from shame to fierce hope as he understood what the humans were proposing. "It's insane," Vexith said. "Yes, sir, it is. I like it. Dominion's pride will support your assault. Launch all fighters," Tae-sung ordered Bora. "Target is the shipyard's main reactor core." "You know what to do," Bora grinned. "Permission to fly like we don't care about regulations?" "Permission granted. Show them what human pilots can do." 300 fighters launched from the Indomitable's bays, joining the surviving fighters from the Dominion's pride. Together they formed a massive strike force that immediately caught the Quilaxians' attention. The human fighters flew with the same chaotic unpredictability that had won the first battle. No formations, no predictable patterns, just individual pilots making split-second decisions. The Quilaxian point defenses couldn't track them all. Their tactical computers calculated optimal firing solutions for enemies that weren't where the calculations said they should be. Meanwhile, the Indomitable and Dominion's pride worked together. The Kvalnar carrier's advanced shields and weapons covered the human ship's approach. The Indomitable's heavy armor and railguns pushed through gaps in the enemy formation. Daehyun triggered EM bursts that blinded Quilaxian sensors, and in those moments of blindness, both carriers unleashed devastating firepower. The Quilaxian fleet tried to respond, but they were confused. They'd expected to fight one advanced carrier. Instead, they faced one advanced carrier and one primitive carrier working together in ways their tactical doctrine couldn't predict. The Dominion's pride fought according to standard galactic combat principles. The Indomitable fought like a brawler, taking hits and giving them back harder. Multiple Quilaxian ships breaking formation, Sangwoo reported. "They're trying to intercept the fighter wing." Bora's voice crackled over the comm. "Let them try. All squadrons scatter and regroup. Make them chase you. Lead them toward the shipyard." The human fighters did exactly that, breaking into seemingly random patterns that drew Quilaxian ships deeper into the combat zone. Closer to the shipyard, closer to the massive fuel reserves and weapon stockpiles that would soon become the galaxy's biggest bomb. "Fighter wing is in position," Bora reported. "Deploying charges now." The fighters made their final approach to the shipyard's core, dodging defensive fire and pursuing ships. One by one, they planted nuclear charges on critical points. Reactor housings, fuel containment fields, weapons magazines. 40 charges in total, each one carefully positioned for maximum destructive effect. "Charges set," Bora confirmed. "All fighters, get clear." "Move, move, move." The fighters turned and burned hard for open space. Behind them, Quilaxian ships finally realized what was happening and tried desperately to intercept, but it was too late. "Detonate," Tae-sung ordered. 40 nuclear warheads detonated simultaneously. For a brief moment, a new sun bloomed in the Tagara sector. The shipyard's reactors lost containment, adding their energy to the explosion. Fuel reserves ignited. Weapons magazines exploded in chain reactions. The blast was visible from 3 star systems away. 40 Quilaxian warships within the immediate blast radius simply ceased to exist, vaporized instantly. Another 60 ships in the wider zone took critical damage, their hulls breached, systems failing, crews dying. The surviving ships scattered in panic, their coordination destroyed, their fleet broken. Both the Indomitable and the Dominion's pride had cleared the danger zone, though barely. Both ships took damage from debris and radiation. Both lost people, burned in the flash, caught by shrapnel, exposed to lethal radiation before emergency bulkheads sealed. But both ships survived. The Quilaxian fleet, what remained of it, surrendered within hours. Without the shipyard, without their command structure, without any hope of victory, they powered down weapons and waited for coalition forces to arrive. Coalition reinforcements jumped into the system 6 hours later. A full battle fleet responding to Admiral Vexith's distress call and the massive energy, signature of the explosion. 2 days after the battle, the UEN Indomitable limped toward Coalition Station Zenith, her hull scarred with plasma burns and her crew exhausted. Commander Tae-sung had transmitted his full report to Coalition Command within hours of the engagement, including detailed sensor logs of the hidden shipyard and recordings of the entire battle. He expected commendations. Perhaps questions, certainly a debriefing, but recognition that his crew had uncovered a dangerous conspiracy and survived impossible odds to report it. What he got instead was a summons to a military tribunal. The message came from Coalition High Command with cold official language. Commander Tae-sung and his senior officers were to present themselves for immediate questioning regarding the unprovoked destruction of Qualaxian civilian vessels. They were to remain aboard the Indomitable until the tribunal convened, and the ship's weapon systems were to be powered down and placed under Coalition oversight. Tae-sung read the message 3 times, certain he must be misunderstanding something. Unprovoked attack? Civilian vessels? Ambassador Ji-won arrived at the station 6 hours before the Indomitable docked, and she met Tae-sung at the airlock with grim news. Qualaxian Trade Federation filed a formal complaint with the Coalition Council. 4 hours after your battle, she explained as they walked through the station's corridors toward the tribunal chambers. Their version of events is very different from yours. What's their version? Tae-sung asked, though he already knew it would be bad. They claim you attacked a peaceful mining operation without warning, that the vessels you destroyed were civilian transport ships and mining craft, that you fabricated evidence of a military shipyard to justify your aggression. They're calling it an act of war. That's insane. We have sensor logs, battle recordings, proof. Ji-won's expression was pained. Tae-sung, they have political support. Admiral Vexith himself has backed the Qualaxian complaint. He's testified that human technology is so primitive that your sensors can't be trusted, that you probably misidentified civilian vessels as warships because your outdated equipment can't tell the difference. The irony burned. The same primitive sensors that had detected the hidden facility through an asteroid field were now being dismissed as unreliable. The same outdated weapons that had destroyed those ships were now evidence of human incompetence rather than capability. The tribunal was held in a large chamber, designed to accommodate representatives from multiple species. 3 judges presided, chosen from influential coalition members. Tae-sung recognized none of them personally, but their species were all ancient members of the galactic community. They would naturally side with established members like the Qualaxians over newcomers like humanity. The Qualaxian representative, a tall diplomat named Advocate Thelrix, presented his case first. His voice was smooth, reasonable, and utterly convincing. The evidence is clear, Thelrix said, gesturing to holographic displays. The human vessel Indomitable entered Qualaxian claimed territory without authorization. When our civilian workers attempted to verify their credentials, the humans opened fire with extreme prejudice. 12 ships destroyed. Over 3,000 Qualaxian lives lost. And for what? To salvage their pride after the humiliation at the Galactic Military Exposition. Murmurs ran through the observers' gallery. The narrative made sense, at least to those who didn't know better. Earth had been embarrassed. Earth wanted to prove its worth. Earth had lashed out violently at the first opportunity. We have no hidden shipyard, Thelrix continued. The facility Commander Tae-sung claims to have seen was a legitimate mining and processing center, authorized by Coalition Charter and operating legally for 15 years. The humans destroyed it with their attack. All evidence of what it truly was is now floating debris. Tae-sung stood when the judges allowed him to speak. He presented his sensor logs, his battle recordings, Dr. Yuna's analysis of the warship designs, everything he had. The ships we engaged were military vessels, Tae-sung stated firmly. Advanced warships with weapons and shields far beyond civilian specifications. Our scans show clearly. Your scans, interrupted one of the judges, are in question, Commander. The tribunal has heard testimony from multiple experts stating that human sensor technology is unreliable by modern standards. Is it not possible you misidentified what you saw? No, it is not possible. My crew includes trained xenotechnology specialists. We know the difference between mining equipment and weapon systems. Thelrix smiled sadly as if dealing with a child. Commander, I understand you believe what you're saying. But consider the circumstances. Your species is new to the galactic community. Your technology is admittedly primitive. You were assigned to a quiet sector precisely because your ship was considered inadequate for real military duty. Is it not possible that your crew, eager to prove themselves, saw threats where none existed? The argument continued for hours. Every piece of evidence Taesung presented was systematically challenged. The sensor logs could be corrupted. The battle footage showed ships firing, but that could have been defensive action. Dr. Yuna's analysis was considered speculation rather than proof. Hana sat in the gallery, her fists clenched so tight her knuckles were white. Bora looked ready to leap from her seat and punch someone. Daehyun's face was carefully neutral, but his eyes showed barely contained anger. The tribunal was a farce. Everyone knew it. But politics ruled the coalition as much as any government, and humanity had no political power. Then something unexpected happened. A voice called from the back of the chamber. "I request permission to testify." Everyone turned. Walking down the central aisle was a small Qualaxian, wearing the simple robes of a trade delegate. Taesung recognized him immediately. It was the same alien who had studied the Indomitables. Specifications at the military. Exposition. Advocate Thelrix's expression flickered with something like fear before smoothing back to calm. "Delegate Rothix, this is highly irregular. You were not called as a witness. I invoke Coalition Legal Code 774. Rothix replied calmly. "Any citizen may testify to crimes against the peace." The judges conferred quietly, then nodded. "Permission granted. State your testimony." Rothix approached the central floor, his small form somehow commanding attention. "My name is Rothix, and I serve in the Qualaxian Diplomatic Corps. I am also part of a resistance movement within my own species. We oppose the secret military faction that has controlled Qualaxian policy for the past 60 years. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Thelrix shot to his feet. "This is preposterous. He's a traitor speaking lies. Silence!" one of the judges commanded. "Continue, Delegate Rothix." Rothix pulled out a data device. "I have here encrypted files detailing the shipyard project. Budgets, construction schedules, personnel assignments. The facility Commander Taesung discovered is real. It is one of 7 such facilities hidden throughout Coalition space. Our military faction has been building a war fleet in secret for decades, planning to seize control of key sectors once the fleet reaches operational capacity." He uploaded the files to the tribunal system. "I studied the human carrier specifications at the exposition because I knew the shipyard existed in the Tegaris sector. I wanted to see if the Indomitable was capable of discovering it. I believed it was not, that humanity's primitive sensors would miss the jamming. I was wrong." Taesung felt a chill. This Qualaxian had been watching, waiting, hoping Earth would expose the conspiracy. It had been a desperate gamble, but it had worked. "These files can be verified," Rothix continued. "They contain information only someone with insider access would possess. I risk my life bringing them forward because my species' honor demands it. We are not all conspirators. Some of us still believe in the peace." The tribunal descended into chaos. Judges called for recess. Advocates shouted. Security tried to maintain order. In the confusion, Thelrix attempted to leave quickly, but Coalition security detained him for questioning. During the recess, Ambassador Jiwan found Taesung in a side chamber. "This is incredible. If Rothix's files check out, you're vindicated. But the shipyard is destroyed," Taesung said, "and that one destroyer escaped. The Qualaxians will hide everything they can." Jiwan nodded grimly. "That's the problem. Rothix's files prove the conspiracy existed, but without physical evidence of the shipyard, some will claim it's all historical and no longer relevant. The Qualaxian military faction will say they abandoned the project years ago. So what do we do?" Before Jiwan could answer, Admiral Vexith entered the chamber. The Kavalnar officer looked uncomfortable, which was almost satisfying given his earlier arrogance. "Commander Taesung," Vexith said stiffly, "I owe you an apology. I testified against your sensor readings based on my assumptions about human technology. I see now that I was hasty. It wasn't much of an apology, but coming from Vexith, it was practically a miracle." "What changed your mind?" "Rothix's files include inventory lists. Some of the ships under construction match descriptions from intelligence reports we've been investigating for years. Unexplained disappearances, resource shipments that went missing. We thought it was piracy or accounting errors. Now we know better. Vexith pulled up a holographic display. The tribunal is reconvening tomorrow. They'll likely rule in your favor based on Rothix's evidence. The Qualaxian Fleet Master appeared on the Indomitable's main screen, his green-tinted face twisted in what might have been a smile. His voice carried the casual confidence of someone who knew they held all the advantages. Human vessel. This is Fleet Master Zorvik. You have discovered something you were not meant to see. Surrender now, and I promise your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make examples of you before we kill you. You have 60 seconds to decide. Tae-sung looked at the tactical display. 12 Qualaxian warships versus his one carrier. The aliens had spread into a standard attack formation, surrounding the Indomitable on 3 sides. Their weapons were powered up, shields at maximum. They expected this to be easy. No response, Tae-sung told his communications officer. Then he activated the ship-wide intercom. All hands, this is the commander. The enemy thinks we're going to surrender because we're outmatched. They think our ship is primitive and our weapons are toys. They're wrong. We're going to show them what humans can do when people stop underestimating us. All crew, prepare for combat. Let's make Earth proud. In the war room just off the bridge, Tae-sung gathered his senior officers for a quick tactical meeting. They had maybe 5 minutes before the Qualaxians attacked. Hana, Dae-hyun, Bo-ra, and Sang-woo crowded around the holographic display. We can't win a straight fight, Sang-woo said bluntly. Their weapons outrange ours and their shields are more advanced. Then we don't fight straight, Bo-ra replied. Commander, let me take all 300 fighters out there. We can overwhelm their point defenses. That's what I'm counting on, Tae-sung said. Sang-woo, what's our advantage? There has to be something. The tactical officer studied the enemy formation carefully. They're using standard galactic combat doctrine. Clean formations, coordinated fire, systematic targeting. It's efficient, proven, and it works against enemies who fight the same way. But we don't, Hana realized. We don't have AI coordination or quantum targeting. We have human pilots making human decisions. Exactly, Tae-sung said. They expect us to follow patterns. We won't, Dae-hyun. What about those EM bursts? Can we do more of them? The engineer nodded slowly. I can overload the reactor containment fields in controlled bursts. It'll stress the system. But these old fusion reactors can take a beating. The question is whether the bursts will actually hurt them. Their shields and sensors use quantum systems. Yuna's voice came over the comm from the science station. Quantum systems are elegant but vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. It's why most species abandoned EM weapons centuries ago. They learned to shield against them. But strong enough interference could still disrupt their systems temporarily. How temporarily? Tae-sung asked. Seconds. Maybe 5 or 10 seconds per burst. We'll take it, Tae-sung decided. Here's the plan. Dae-hyun triggers EM bursts to blind their sensors and weaken their shields. When that happens, Hana coordinates railgun strikes, solid tungsten slugs moving at relativistic speeds. No energy signature to track, no way to disable them with countermeasures. Bo-ra, your fighters swarm them during the confusion. Don't follow standard attack patterns. Be unpredictable. Make them react to us instead of executing their plan. What about our armor? Sang-woo asked. When they shoot back? Tae-sung smiled grimly. That's where our thick, inefficient, outdated armor plating comes in. We're going to take hits. That's unavoidable. But we're built to survive them. The 60 seconds ran out. The Qualaxian ships opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked across space in coordinated volleys, converging on the Indomitable from 3 directions. The first impacts made the carrier shudder, her shields flaring bright as they absorbed the energy. Alarms blared on the bridge as power fluctuated. Shields down to 70%, reported the defensive systems officer. Return fire, Tae-sung ordered calmly. Launch all fighters. The Indomitable's hangar bays opened and 300 human fighters poured out like angry hornets from a disturbed nest. The Qualaxians had expected maybe 50 or 60 fighters. That was standard for advanced carriers. Seeing 300 small craft screaming toward them clearly surprised the enemy fleet. Their point defense systems opened up, but they were designed to handle smaller numbers. Calculated fields of fire meant to efficiently eliminate expected threats. The sheer number of human fighters overwhelmed those calculations immediately. Meanwhile, the Indomitable's railguns spoke. Not with the bright flash of energy weapons, but with the simple, brutal physics of mass and velocity. Tungsten rods, each one weighing several tons, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The Quilaxian ship's sensors barely registered them as threats. No energy signature, no guidance system, just chunks of metal flying through space until they hit. The first railgun slug punched through a Quilaxian destroyer's shields like they weren't there and tore a hole straight through the vessel's midsection. The destroyer didn't explode dramatically. It just broke in half, its internal atmosphere venting, systems going dark. "Direct hit," Sang-Woo called out. "Enemy destroyer disabled." Bora led her fighter wing in a chaotic, beautiful assault. The Quilaxian tactical doctrine expected coordinated attack runs, fighters moving in formation, following predictable patterns. Human pilots did none of that. They scattered like leaves in wind, each one making individual decisions, attacking from unexpected angles, breaking off and repositioning constantly. It was inefficient by galactic standards. It wasted energy and ammunition, but it was impossible to predict. Quilaxian point defense systems tracked targets, calculated trajectories, fired at where the fighters should be, only to find empty space as human pilots jinked away at the last second on pure instinct. "This is insane," one of Bo-Ra's squadron leaders transmitted. "I love it!" Daehyun triggered another EM burst. The pulse washed over the Quilaxian fleet, and for precious seconds their shields flickered and their sensors went blind. In that window, Hana directed every railgun on the Indomitable to fire at once. 40 tungsten slugs crossed space in silence. 3 more Quilaxian ships took critical damage. One cruiser lost its main power core and went dark. Another destroyer took a hit that severed its command section. A third ship's shields failed completely, leaving it vulnerable. But the Quilaxians weren't helpless. They adapted quickly, refocusing fire on the Indomitable herself. More plasma bolts hammered into the carrier. Her shields collapsed under the sustained assault. An energy blast began striking the hull directly. "Hull breach on deck 17, someone shouted. "Emergency bulkheads holding." "Armor holding," Sang-Woo reported, almost surprised. "Damage is contained." That thick, heavy, wasteful armor plating was doing its job. Plasma burns scarred the hull, melting through the outer layers, but the redundant armor absorbed the damage. A sleeker alien ship would have been crippled already. The Indomitable just got angry. Taesung watched the tactical display, reading the battle like a chess game. 7 Quilaxian ships left combat capable. His own vessel was damaged but functional. The fighters were still swarming, still causing chaos. They were actually surviving this fight. Sang-Woo, the asteroid field. "Can we use it?" The tactical officer's eyes lit up. "Sir, their navigation systems are automated. Advanced AI pathfinding. It's faster and more efficient than manual navigation. But it follows algorithms. Predictable algorithms." "Yes, sir." "Then let's lead them into the rocks." Taesung ordered the Indomitable to move deeper into the asteroid field, deliberately positioning the carrier in the densest region they could safely navigate. The Quilaxian ships followed, confident in their automated systems. What they didn't account for was human stubbornness. The Indomitable had redundant thruster systems, another wasteful design choice, giving her better maneuverability than her size suggested. Daehyun pushed the engines hard, threading the massive carrier through gaps that should have been impossible. The Quilaxian ships, trusting their automated navigation, calculated safe paths through the asteroids, but those calculations were based on predictable movement. The Indomitable wasn't predictable. She jinked, she dove, she changed course on apparent whims. The first Quilaxian cruiser realized too late that its calculated path was about to intersect with a tumbling asteroid. The automated system tried to correct, but momentum and distance made it impossible. The collision was catastrophic. The cruiser's forward section crumpled against several tons of rock moving at orbital velocity. 2 more Quilaxian ships made similar fatal mistakes, their AI systems unable to adapt fast enough to the chaotic environment the humans were creating. Now only 4 enemy ships remained combat capable. "They're breaking formation," Sang-Woo announced. "Attempting to withdraw." "Don't let them," Taesung ordered. "Bo-Ra, your fighters stop those ships. Hana, prepare full missile barrage." The Indomitable carried hundreds of nuclear-tipped missiles. Old technology. Simple technology. The kind of weapons that advanced species considered almost embarrassing. But they were reliable. They were powerful. And when you launched all of them at once, there was no point defense system in the galaxy that could stop them all. The missiles streaked across space in a massive wave. The Quilaxian ship's point defense systems worked frantically, shooting down dozens, then hundreds of the incoming warheads. But there were too many. 3 weeks in the Tagaris sector had been exactly as boring as everyone predicted. The UEN Indomitable drifted through empty space, her sensors sweeping endlessly for threats that never appeared. The crew settled into routine, meals in the mess hall, maintenance shifts, training drills that everyone knew were pointless. They were the galaxy's joke, parked in the galaxy's emptiest corner. Commander Tae-sung walked the corridors of his ship every day, maintaining visibility and morale. He stopped to talk with crew members, listened to their concerns, tried to keep spirits up. It was hard. Everyone knew why they were really here. This wasn't a patrol, it was exile. In engineering, Daehyun kept the fusion reactors running at perfect efficiency. The primitive systems that had drawn so much mockery worked flawlessly, providing steady power without the temperamental fluctuations that plagued some of the more advanced alien reactor designs. But there was no one around to see it, no one to care. Flight Commander Bo-Ra ran her fighter squadrons through daily exercises. 300 pilots launching from the Indomitable's massive hangar bays in coordinated patterns, practicing combat maneuvers against imaginary enemies. The fighters themselves were simple compared to alien craft. No AI guidance, no quantum targeting systems. Just human pilots flying by skill and instinct. Bo-Ra insisted the training continue despite the grumbling. "We stay sharp," she told her pilots, "because you never know." On the bridge, Tactical Officer Sang-woo monitored the sensor displays out of habit more than expectation. The sensors were one area where the Indomitable's design actually differed in interesting ways from alien technology. Human engineers had combined multiple detection methods, electromagnetic, gravitational wave, even some older radar systems. Most advanced species had streamlined their sensors, using only the most efficient quantum-based scanners. It was Sang-woo who first noticed something odd. "Commander," he called out during the night shift. "I'm picking up unusual readings bearing 270 distance approximately 4 light hours." Tae-sung moved to the tactical station, studying the display. The signal was faint, barely registering. "What am I looking at?" "I'm not sure, sir. It's not matching any known stellar phenomena. The pattern seems almost artificial, but it's erratic, like something's interfering with it." "Could be equipment malfunction," suggested the watch officer. "Negative," Sang-woo replied. "I'm reading it across multiple sensor types. The gravitational wave detector is showing it, and so are the older EM scanners. Whatever it is, it's real." Tae-sung studied the readings. The signal was coming from the vicinity of an asteroid field near one of the old Rothani mining colonies. "How far into the asteroid field?" "Deep, sir. Right in the densest part. A standard scan wouldn't penetrate that much rock and metal. But the Indomitable's sensors weren't standard. The combination of different detection methods gave them unusual range and penetration. It was one of those primitive design choices that had seemed inefficient to the advanced species. Why use 5 different sensor types when one good quantum scanner could do it all? Except quantum scanners couldn't see through dense asteroid fields. "Send a long-range probe," Tae-sung ordered. "I want to know what's generating that signal." 2 hours later, the probe's data started coming back. Tae-sung watched the analysis with growing confusion. The probe had detected artificial structures inside the asteroid field. Large ones, but when he tried to get visual confirmation, the images were distorted by some kind of jamming field. "This doesn't make sense," Hana said, leaning over the display. "The Rothani abandoned these colonies 50 years ago. There shouldn't be anything active out here." "Maybe pirates?" suggested the watch officer. "Using the asteroids as a base?" Sang-woo shook his head. "The energy signature is too big for a pirate base. This is something industrial scale." Tae-sung made a decision that would later be called either brilliant or reckless, depending on who told the story. "Bo-Ra, prep a reconnaissance flight. 6 fighters, full sensor packages. I want eyes on whatever's hiding in those asteroids." "Sir," Hana said carefully. "Protocol says we should report this to command first. Protocol also says we're on patrol duty. Part of patrol is investigating anomalies. We'll report once we know what we're reporting." The truth was, Tae-sung wanted to investigate himself. 3 weeks of sitting in empty space had worn on him. If there was something out here, he wanted his crew to be the ones who found it. Maybe then Earth would get some respect. 2 hours later, Bora led her six-fighter reconnaissance team into the asteroid field. The journey took time, careful navigation through tumbling rocks and debris. The fighters' pilots flew manually, trusting their own reflexes over automation. Another primitive human trait that advanced species had abandoned. What they found made Bora's breath catch in her throat. Hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid, protected by jamming technology and natural concealment, was a shipyard, not a small facility. A massive construction complex easily 3 times the size of Earth's largest shipyard. Dozens of ships in various stages of completion floated in the vacuum, held by docking clamps and surrounded by construction equipment. "Base, are you seeing this?" Bora transmitted back to the Indomitable. On the carrier's bridge, Taesung stared at the visual feed in disbelief. The ships under construction weren't commercial vessels. They were warships, heavy cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and in the center of it all, something absolutely massive, a dreadnought-class vessel that dwarfed anything else in the facility. "Get me Dr. Yuna," Taesung ordered. The ship's xenotechnology specialist arrived within minutes. Dr. Yuna was an expert in alien technology, able to identify the origins and capabilities of foreign vessels. She studied the reconnaissance footage carefully, her expression growing more troubled with each passing moment. "These are Quilaxian ships," she finally said. "Quilaxian?" Hana echoed. "But they're traitors. Their species doesn't have a military fleet." "They're not supposed to," Yuna agreed. "The Quilaxian Trade Federation signed the Coalition Peace Accords 200 years ago. They gave up their military in exchange for protected trade status. Everyone knows them as peaceful merchants. Then what are those?" Taesung pointed at the obvious weapon systems on the vessels. "I don't know. But look at the technology. These aren't just warships. They're advanced warships, stealth systems, weapons I don't even recognize. If I didn't know better, I'd say the Quilaxians have been secretly developing military technology for decades." The implications settled over the bridge like a cold weight. A species that the entire galaxy trusted had been building a secret war fleet. The question was why? "How many ships are in there?" Sang-Woo asked. Yuna reviewed the footage again. "Hard to say with the jamming, but I count at least 30 in various stages of completion in this facility alone. If there are other facilities like this..." She didn't need to finish the thought. The Galactic Coalition had been at peace for 3 centuries. Most species had reduced their militaries to patrol forces and defense fleets. If the Quilaxians had been secretly building up for war, they could overwhelm Coalition defenses before anyone knew what was happening. "Commander," Bora's voice crackled over the comm. "We're picking up activity in the facility. Looks like patrol ships launching. I think they detected us. Get back here," Taesung ordered. "Now." The 6 fighters turned and burned hard for open space, weaving through asteroids at speeds that made their flight computers scream warnings. Behind them, Quilaxian patrol ships emerged from the facility in pursuit. Smaller, faster vessels designed for exactly this kind of interception. On the Indomitable, Sang-Woo tracked both the fighters and their pursuers. "Sir, the Quilaxian ships are faster. They're going to catch our people before they clear the asteroid field." Taesung's mind raced. They couldn't leave their pilots. But if they moved the Indomitable closer, they'd reveal their presence. Right now, the Quilaxians might think they were dealing with a random scout ship. "Engineering," Taesung called. "Daehyun, can you give me a sensor pulse? Something strong enough to blind their targeting systems for a few seconds. You want an EM burst? Sir, that would announce our presence to everyone in the sector. They're going to know anyway once they catch our fighters. Give me the burst on my mark." The fighters cleared the densest part of the asteroid field with Quilaxian ships right on their tails. Weapons fire streaked through space, narrowly missing the human craft. "Mark," Taesung ordered. Daehyun triggered a controlled overload in one of the fusion reactor's containment fields. The burst of electromagnetic energy screamed out from the Indomitable like a beacon, washing over the Quilaxian pursuit ships. Their sensors went haywire, their targeting systems crashed, and for crucial seconds they flew blind. The human fighters used those seconds to put distance between themselves and their hunters, racing for the safety of the Indomitable's hangar bays. They landed hard and fast, and the moment the last fighter was aboard, Taesung ordered the ship to battle stations. "Scan the area," he commanded. "How many Quilaxian ships are coming?" The answer made his blood run cold. 12 warships were converging on the Indomitable's position. Cruisers and destroyers, all of them fresh from the secret shipyard and armed with weapons that Earth's intelligence had no data on. Commander Tae-sung stood in the grand exhibition hall of the Galactic Trade Assembly Station, watching the holographic display of Earth's newest warship rotate slowly above the gathered crowd. The UEN Indomitable hung there in shimmering blue light, all 2 kilometers of her hull visible for every species in the galaxy to judge. 15 years of work, thousands of human engineers pouring their hearts into this one vessel, and now, finally, Earth would show the galaxy what humanity could build. The laughter started almost immediately. It began as scattered chuckles from the Kvalner delegation, their scaled faces twisted in what Tae-sung had learned to recognize as amusement. Then the Rathani joined in, their multiple eye stalks quivering. Within moments, the entire hall echoed with the sounds of alien mockery. Over 300 military observers from 100 different species, and they were all laughing at Earth's pride. Lieutenant Hana stood beside Tae-sung, her jaw clenched tight. She kept her eyes forward, professional and still, but her hands were balled into fists at her sides. Ambassador Ji-won, representing Earth's diplomatic corps, maintained a frozen smile that looked more like a grimace. Admiral Vexith of the Kvalnar Empire stepped forward, his tall form towering over the human delegation. His voice boomed across the hall, amplified by the station's system so everyone could hear. Fusion reactors? You still use fusion reactors? More laughter followed. My species abandoned that technology 4,000 years ago. It's like watching children play with fire sticks. Another Kvalnar officer pointed at the hologram. Look at that armor plating. So thick, so heavy. Do they not understand energy shielding? Why carry all that dead weight? And the weapons, Vexith continued, clearly enjoying himself. Kinetic railguns and missiles. How quaint. How primitive. Did your species miss the last 10,000 years of weapons development? Plasma disruptors, quantum torpedoes, graviton beams. These are the tools of modern warfare. But you bring us metal slugs fired by magnets. Tae-sung felt his face burning. He wanted to defend his ship, his people, but the words stuck in his throat. What could he say? By galactic standards, the Indomitable was outdated. Humanity had only joined the coalition 30 years ago. They were still learning, still catching up to species that had been traveling the stars for millennia. A Rothani commander approached the hologram, studying it with several of his eyes while the others looked at Tae-sung with something like pity. The hangar bays are particularly amusing. So much internal space wasted on fighter craft storage. 300 fighters. Our carriers hold 50 and accomplish twice as much with advanced automation and AI-guided drones. Efficiency is clearly not a human strength, another alien added, prompting fresh waves of laughter. Hana leaned close to Tae-sung and whispered, "Sir, permission to speak freely?" "Denied," Tae-sung muttered back. The last thing they needed was an interstellar incident, caused by an angry junior officer. No matter how much he agreed with whatever she wanted to say, Ambassador Ji-won stepped forward. Trying to salvage something from the disaster, the Indomitable represents humanity's commitment to the Coalition's defense. While our technology may differ from yours, we believe— Differ? Vexith interrupted. Your technology doesn't differ, Ambassador. It's simply inferior. This vessel would be destroyed in seconds by any modern warship. Honestly, I'm surprised your people even bothered to build it. Perhaps you should focus on what humans do best: manual labor and resource extraction. Leave warfare to species who understand it. The room fell quiet at that. There was mockery and then there was direct insult. Several alien delegates looked uncomfortable, but no one spoke up in Earth's defense. In the Coalition's hierarchy, humanity ranked near the bottom. The newest members, the least advanced, the species that others tolerated but didn't respect. Tae-sung forced himself to bow slightly, the gesture of acknowledgement in galactic custom. Thank you for your evaluation, Admiral. Earth will consider your words carefully. It was the only response he could give without making things worse, but inside shame burned like acid in his gut. 15 years, so many resources, so many hopes. And the galaxy thought it was all a joke. As the crowd began to disperse, still chuckling among themselves, a small figure approached the holographic display. Tae-sung noticed him because he was the only alien who wasn't laughing. The creature was Quilaxian, easily identified by his green-tinted skin and the distinctive ridge along his head. He stood barely a meter tall, studying the Indomitable's specifications with unusual intensity. The Quilaxian pulled out a data device and began downloading information. His fingers moved quickly across the interface, copying technical readouts, structural diagrams, and system specifications. Hana noticed too and tensed, ready to intervene, but Tae-sung put a hand on her arm. The expo was public. Anyone could access the displayed information. That was the point. Still, something about the Quilaxian's focus made Tae-sung uneasy. While everyone else had dismissed the Indomitable with barely a glance, this one was taking detailed notes. After several minutes, the alien finished his download, looked once more at the hologram, and then quietly left the hall without speaking to anyone. Who was that? Hana asked. No idea, Tae-sung replied. Probably just curious. Ambassador Ji-won rejoined them, her diplomatic mask finally cracking. That was a disaster. Earth Command is going to hear about this from every political enemy we have. The council members who didn't want humanity in the coalition will use this as ammunition. They asked us to contribute to galactic defense, Tae-sung said, trying to keep his voice steady. We did. It's not our fault we're not as advanced as species that have had 10,000 years more development. Intent doesn't matter, Ji-won replied sadly. Results do. And the result is that everyone now thinks Earth is even more backward than they already believed. 3 days later, the Indomitable received her assignment. Tae-sung read the orders in his quarters aboard the ship, which was docked at Coalition Station 7, patrol duty in the Tagaris sector. The quietest, most boring region of Coalition space. No trade routes, no strategic importance, nothing but empty space and some abandoned mining colonies that hadn't been active in decades. It was a punishment detail dressed up as a posting. The Coalition was essentially parking Earth's embarrassing warship where no one would have to look at it. Tae-sung gathered his senior officers in the briefing room to share the news. Hana, Engineer Dae-hun, Flight Commander Bora, and Tactical Officer Sang-woo sat around the table, their faces showing various degrees of disappointment. Tagaris sector, Bora said flatly. Great. My fighter wing will die of boredom before we ever see combat. Maybe that's for the best, Dae-hun said with bitter humor. At least we won't have to prove we're as useless as everyone thinks. We're not useless, Hana snapped. Our ship is solid. Our weapons work. Our crew is trained. So what if we don't have fancy plasma cannons? We have what we have and we'll make it work. Against who? Sang-woo asked. There's nothing in Tagaris sector but rocks and radiation. Tae-sung let them vent. They needed it. They'd all worked hard to crew the Indomitable, had all believed they were part of something important. Finding out the galaxy thought they were a joke hurt more than any of them wanted to admit. Listen, Tae-sung finally said. We have our orders. We'll patrol Tagaris sector and do our duty. That's what Earth Navy officers do. Maybe the assignment is boring. Maybe it's meant as an insult. But we'll prove ourselves through our service, not through complaining. Understood? Reluctant nods around the table. Good. We depart in 6 hours. Dismissed. As the officers filed out, only Hana remained behind. Sir, did you notice the Quilaxian at the expo? The one downloading our specs? I saw him. Does it bother you? Why would he be so interested in a ship everyone else thinks is garbage? Tae-sung had been wondering the same thing. Maybe he was just thorough. Or maybe he saw something others missed. Or maybe, Hana said quietly, everyone else was too busy laughing to actually look. 6 hours later, the UN Indomitable fired her thrusters and left Coalition Station 7 behind. Her crew of 4,000 humans set course for the Tagaris sector, unaware that their primitive ship was about to face a test that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. As they jumped to faster-than-light travel, the ship's sensors detected unusual activity near the abandoned Rothani mining colonies in their assigned sector. Energy signatures that didn't match any known natural phenomena. When Tae-sung asked command about it, they dismissed it as stellar interference. Just background radiation from old mining equipment. Nothing to worry about. Nothing at all.